Welcome to Command Control Power, Apple Tech Support and Business Talk, the longest-running Apple consulting podcast. What you're about to hear is a best-of episode originally broadcast on November 21st, 2013. If you enjoyed our recent conversation about AI, there's a lot more waiting for you on Patreon. The latest episode, we are joined by Benjamin Morales, CEO of Cirrus Partners, Inc., and Jason Wick, Managing Director and Founder of Sentry, for a wide-ranging discussion about the real-world benefits and risks of AI for consultants and their clients. They explore AI's reliability issues, the need for human validation, the rise of shadow AI inside organizations, and how firms are experimenting with tools like local models, including Ollama, while managing confidentiality, security, and policy concerns. The conversation also covers client pressure to adopt agent-based AI tools, the resulting support and security challenges, and how consultants are adapting pricing, scope, and best practices as AI becomes embedded in business workflows. Join us on Patreon to hear the full episode. To subscribe, simply visit commandcontrolpower.com and click support.
Day 392, the Mac Mini held hostage. You could still go out and buy a Mac Mini server, but it's, from 392 days ago. So, and that's a long time, but that's pretty typical. There's one of those websites that charts this, and I was looking at it, and it's, the average time is, I think, 360 days between releases or something like that. So, it's definitely one of those low priority or low product priority totem pole pieces.
Yeah, I think you mean, are you talking about the buyer's guide on Mac Rumors?
I believe that might be it.
Yeah, buyersguide.macrumors.com. And that's a great reference. I love going there for, when a client says, should I buy a new XYZ? And it's, it's a great reference. Like you said, you can say, well, it's been this long since the last one. In this case, with the plain old MacBook Pro, it's like, 526 days since the last update. And, and they say here, don't buy, outdated and likely being phased out, in the case of the, plain old MacBook Pro, for example. But yeah, there's a lot of things like that. I'm actually surprised to see the little yellow or orange kind of dot next to MacBook Air. Because, it just was updated in the summer, but it seems like they update it basically every summer for the last, I think, 3 cycles. So we probably won't see another MacBook Air until, summer 2014. But they're giving that a yellow dot.
A yellow already, huh?
Yeah, neutral, mid product cycle. But that's
June. I think it was June 2013.
Yeah, that's right.
So
yeah.
We're just.
Yeah, it's been a certain length since then. I guess it's been about half. It looks like so, or close to it.
Right. So that's probably why it's yellow.
Yeah. So. Well, I'm psyched about the Mac Pro. I can't wait for it to see it actually ship and see what the exact options are and all that. It's
Me too.
Really tempting as a server, but I don't think I can justify it personally.
Oh, I was hoping you would, so I can come check it out.
Right. It would look very cool in the rack, but yeah, I don't think. Then I could never pick it up and see the glowing lights, light up automatically. So.
Well, I know one client that's going to get one as soon as it's ready. Actually, possibly two. They got some money to float around, so.
Yeah.
But they're due. They have some older Mac Pros, and they're dying for a new one.
Yeah, I have a few of those too. One that's like, kind of first in line, and then a few others like yourself.
Well, the interesting thing about the Mac Pro is that, I'm trying to think of, some customer landscapes where that's going to fit, or even if I could kind of work that into their network. And because it's not, as we've talked about, and we all know, it's not just simply buying what's on the Apple website. That only gets you part of the way there. Then you've got to figure out what to do about storage. So to really hit the ground running, it's buying the Apple Mac Pro and then some. And that's a big nut for a lot of clients to, unless you're a big enterprise corp, right?
Absolutely. Yeah,
It's a chunk of change.
Yeah, not to mention, storage is one thing, and then backup. It's really all. It adds up so fast. You're talking $10,000 easily, for a suitable like Mac Pro plus storage and backup.
That's no joke.
Yeah.
So I'll probably have to go by, Joe's office to see the Mac Pro.
We'll all crowd around.
Maybe we could get Apple to sponsor the show and send us a couple.
Nice. Don't hold your breath.
No, I won't. So speaking of that, how was your APS conference, Sam, or camp?
It was cool, man. Whenever I come back from those, I kind of I get psyched afterwards, just realizing how much it's social as much as the learning part, because you're like spending day and night with these people. And I even celebrated my birthday when I was out there, so that was a good thing too.
Happy belated birthday! I noticed it on the calendar after the fact, and
nice.
Realized you were out there for that. That's interesting. Did they buy you a drink or anything? Any of those guys?
A few drinks were purchased, yes.
Nice.
And my guys played a little joke on me. I walked in the morning, and the presenter. I turned 39. The presenter said, "Now that everyone's settled in." Yeah, no, I've really turned 39. And he said, "Happy 40th birthday to Sam Valencia," because they told him.
How'd that sound for the first time hearing that?
Well, I'm not 40.
Right.
So. And then I told everybody, I after the applause stopped, which was kind of nice, I said, "I'm 39. Everyone's like, "Yeah, right, whatever."
Oh, that's great. Yeah. That's really great. That's a good joke.
That's pretty fun.
But anyway, yeah, it was cool. And, of course, while I was there, I talked up a little bit about the podcast and ended up talking with a few people, and in particular, a gentleman by the name of Bob Garst from BFA Technologies. We chatted because it was really interesting, actually. He started asking me or talking to me about pricing and saying that they were changing their pricing and how we handled it in the past. And I was like, it's interesting that you bring that up. We have an episode on our podcast about it. So we started talking, and he subscribed right there on the spot. And it was great. And he came back the next morning. He's like, "That's so awesome. You guys were talking about everything that we were thinking of." And it was great. And it was really cool to hear someone just like take it home, listen to it, come back the next morning with immediate feedback.
Oh, that's good. That's a nice feeling.
That's great
cool
feedback. Yeah.
But anyway, overall, it was a good thing. Yeah.
Yeah. So how many people were in attendance for that? Approximately
120.
Wow.
But I mean, there's the companies send multiple people. Right. So it's not like 120 companies. Right. But it was cool. I mean, you learn stuff, and you also just kind of get to schmooze a bit, I guess you could say. So,
is there anything you can say, without breaking any kind of NDA, just about any sort of new policies, or is it pretty much status quo with Apple, where Apple's concerned?
Yeah, I mean, this was specifically like just geared towards the whole Apple professional services and how you work. So, that stuff obviously NDA, but we did a lot of labs too, which was cool. Like server labs, managing devices, deployment labs. And that's the part that kind of if I feel weak on a subject, I dive into a lab and then I get to ask questions, and I like that part of it because you really have someone right there that's an Apple engineer that can say, well, this is why this works this way, or something like that,
Yeah, I love that aspect of any of the Apple training. Just getting it straight from the horse's mouth. This is the way Apple does it. This is the way they design their labs. Even taking training with an AATC like you do, Sam. Just getting an Apple trained trainer to kind of walk you through something. Now how it's meant to be done. How it's sort of like the state of the art of the of the Apple consulting world.
Yeah. It is really cool to just have that guy right there, and they had these cool sessions where you can chat it out with people, and you just kind of grab the closest Apple engineer and be like, "Hey man, what do you think of this?" And if they don't know the answer, they'll grab over a couple guys, and you end up with like little, a few guys just huddled together trying to figure out a problem. It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool. Do you do any kind of stump the engineer kind of game show?
A couple guys did, yeah.
That's cool.
But and then you just realize how smart some of the people in the room are too. Do you guys know Paul Suh?
Yeah, he's awesome.
Yeah,
I don't know him very well, but I know him from the lists and stuff like that.
Yeah, he does work with us sometimes too. He's wicked smart.
Yeah.
So sometimes the stuff that would just come out of his mouth, you're like, "Whoa, say that again."
I love his emails to the list. He's always like, "Folks, new paragraph, blah blah blah," and then he proceeds to basically spell it out in a really clear and concise way, and it leaves no doubt. There's no one that's ever like, "Paul, I disagree." It's just it's he just gives you the word according to Paul. It's great.
Yeah, he's a smart dude. I like him. He's also a trainer. He does a lot of arms of Apple. While we're on the subject, real quick, not to hijack the whole thing with APS, but Mike had asked a question, Mike Kingsley on the list, asking if APS had people that generally cover certain regions, but that's typically not the case. Although I can't speak to how they distribute gigs, it's I've worked in Iowa and California on 2 different gigs, so I think it might be level of expert or area of expertise, and geographic region makes no difference whatsoever, apparently.
So the assumption is there's a lot of travel involved typically with these kinds of things.
Yeah, definitely.
So it's find the best man or woman for the job, not so much the guy down the street. It's more so like who's got experience with this particular thing.
Yeah, and possibly availability too and all that stuff.
Right.
So that's how that breaks down.
Now, would you say that's pretty much the extent of the companies that are involved in APS, or were there a lot of companies that were not represented at the training camp?
That I don't know. There's information that I don't think we'll ever know in terms of how many people and all that stuff, and how many representatives from each company. But I mean, I'm sure there are a bunch that weren't there just because they couldn't make it. But many people at least send a rep, So we sent 4 people, but you could send a couple people. And I think even if you're busy, if you have someone you can at least send to be there to make a presence, you do it. So I would think that a lot of companies were represented there.
Okay, Sam. So next year, Joe and I are going to be there, right? you gonna make this happen?
Can you sponsor us in our membership there with the APS?
Dude, I have zero pull. What's that?
It's like being in the Elks or the Raccoon Club or something like that, where you could, we get to wear the hats on backwards, for the first year.
I think we need 3, isn't it? 3 APS authorized companies to sponsor us, right? To vouch for us, and then we're invited in.
You gotta wear the propeller hats,
Exactly. Well, that's great. Speaking of Apple engineers and speaking to people, just a quick little follow-up on not last week's show, because last week's was pre-recorded with Rackspace, but the week before we spoke briefly about Configurator. And I just wanted to say that between then and now, I had, we had talked about some of the challenges with Active Lock and turning on Find My iPhone and trying to run these supervised profiles on the iPads and the iOS devices. And I heard unofficially, but from a Apple employee who's an Apple engineer, that the way Apple Configurator, and again, you could go back and refer to that show, but the way it's behaving, that's considered to be acceptable, and they don't find it to be broken, and they're not going to fix it. It's just that's the way it is. And part of the reason is because they're trying to make Apple Configurator something that's workable in an education and enterprise solution, but ultimately these iOS devices, and again, this is off the record, that's why we're broadcasting this, that these iOS devices are designed for the individual.
Yeah, so the assumption is it's a one-to-one kind of rollout. I mean, that's
rather than one-to-many, right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yep. Huh. And Apple Configurator is kind of these aren't this engineer's words; these are mine, but kind of like bolted on the top. Sort of a bolted-on feature. So what we discussed in great length 2 weeks ago about, and you could go back and review that because it's kind of interesting, and is that, in a supervised mode, you can't have Find My iPad turned on and then configure these iPads. And that's considered, that's the way it is, and that's not broken.
Wow.
Which is interesting.
Definitely.
Now that really it sounds like you're revealing some kind of underpinnings of of iOS, some fundamental assumptions there that it's really a single user OS under the hood, and therefore Apple Configurator being bolted onto the top of that has to work within those limits, as opposed to the way I guess some of these later Android tablets are supporting multiple users.
Well, here's the interesting thing, and I had never thought about this, but it was like plain as day. And it was brought up that the maximum amount of devices you can use in Find My iPad is only 9 anyway. So that's revealing right there. You can have like a whole Bradford cart of 18 iPads show up in a Find My iOS device account. Again, it maxes out at 9. So that tells you that's telling.
Right, and when I was listening to the episode again, and editing and stuff like that, and just listening to it again because that's something I do for some reason. I was thinking to myself, just kind of along those lines, like, wouldn't you just not use Find My iPhone or Find My iPad and use the remote wipe feature instead? Just the built-in feature of Apple Configurator with those managed devices. I mean, so in other words, you can get the kind of similar functionality, I suppose, as opposed to using iCloud for it.
Oh, you're talking about remote lock and remote wiping,
right? So at least you have that, as opposed to using Find My iPad and using the iCloud features for those functions. Sorry.
Well, I hear what you're saying. Well, you need some kind of MDM though. I mean, because whatchamacallit, Apple Configurator would just be talking to the device when it's plugged into it.
Right. So you use Apple Configurator to enroll the devices
okay. Sorry.
Like we talked about on the show, I guess, you were saying AirWatch in particular, for example. So then, then you have that function built into. So I guess you then therefore need you need an MDM in addition to Configurator.
Right. And that's what this engineer also spoke to, was that Apple does leave the door open for other opportunities for other vendors to extend this product in those directions, if within the confines of how it works. But it's the way it is with its limitations. So there's no and that was sort of. I don't know what the word would be. That was sort of just satisfying to know that there wasn't some sort of navigable path that I was, or recipe, as we talked about 2 weeks ago, that I was missing somehow. Again, the way Active Lock is responding and Find My iPhone with this tool is considered to be the way it is.
Yeah, there are definite hiccups with. I mean, not that that's a hiccup. I understand that that's like a by design thing, but Apple Configurator just has, random hiccups here and there that can be very minorly frustrating, or just a really big deal if you roll out a bunch of iPads. Mm-hmm. Are you, just out of curiosity, are you using? What kind of Mac in this case were you using to do it? Like a MacBook Pro or a Mini or something like that?
It was a MacBook Air. Yeah.
Hey, so that brings up a question. How many devices were you syncing at the same time?
With the Bradford cart, 18.
Yeah.
18.
Oh, okay. 18.
Yeah.
Oh, see, that's interesting because, like, technically, you're supposed to get at least like 40 to 60 devices synced through Apple Configurator, but the Airs have like this 20 device limit. You didn't hit it, obviously, but but I found that because some people have run into that, and
that's interesting.
Curious. Yeah.
Right,
Wow.
because there's only one USB bus on there, right? I think that's probably, I don't know if that has something to do with it, but I think the Pro, the MacBook Pro, and I think all the other machines have at least 2 USB buses.
Yeah, I think you hit that on the head, man.
So that makes sense. And I think because there's like a 21 device limit on a USB bus, I want to say, something like that.
Is it
Joe? He's smarter than the average bear.
It's stuff I just didn't think about.
He just comes out with it.
I remember reading that somewhere. I just, I don't know. That I might not be on the mark with that, but there is some kind of like per bus, limit. Like you can connect up to, X number of devices on a single USB port, basically. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And effectively, the MacBook Air, I think, even though it has 2 ports, I believe it's only like 1 bus.
That is right. Yeah, that's absolutely right. Yeah. Huh.
Well,
there you go.
At least you didn't hit it, man.
Yeah, imagine that. That would have thrown another curveball at you in the middle of all that.
Yeah, just devices just stop syncing all of a sudden.
And the other follow-up, just to put in a good word here for our chat last week with Rackspace, I had been going for many, many years with another company who was providing me hosted exchange, and they were okay. But I just felt really good about our chat last week, and I always wanted to kind of make the switch to Rackspace, and that kind of pushed me over. So I migrated my accounts probably in an evening's time, and everything was good to go, and everything's been great. And I'm not using Outlook, so I'm using Rackspace Hosted Exchange with Apple Mail on Mavericks, and that's working fine. So no problems there. And I'm not doing too much with the iCal with Hosted Exchange because I do use Daylight as my primary business calendar. So that's what I'm using for my CalDAV and my CardDAV. But yeah, really good company.
Yeah, the support is. I mean, I've knocked it around a bunch of times and said it before. The support is the awesome part too. But yeah, they're reliable at least too. So you switched over a few accounts. Have you also joined the partner program yet? I keep bugging you about that.
No, I have. I have indeed.
Nice.
Yeah. So
get ready for that money to roll your way, man. I think my first payout was like 75 cents or something because I just signed up like 2 people, you know.
Real-time follow-up. I was off by an order of magnitude. It's actually 127 devices on a single USB controller, I guess. So I'm not sure if that's like, referring to the bus or what, but anyway, I think the important thing to take away is, Sam, you said it was 20 devices on the MacBook Airs. Is that like referenced by Apple somewhere?
I think it is actually. And you know what? I'm just looking at some notes. I think it has to do with USB 3.0 limitation and stuff as well. And like, there's a way you can change a setting. I got to look it up, but to kind of knock it down to 2.0 and it would not hit that limitation. I'll look it up. I'll follow up with the show notes.
Cool. That'd be good. Yeah, that would be a good one to know for those kinds of situations, not to overdo the number that you're syncing at once.
So this shows the level of respect we have for you, Joe. You said a number and we just listened.
It's actually 42. No, sorry. Thank you. I appreciate that, even though I was completely undeserved.
It's all right. We're all wrong every once in a while.
So those are some. That's interesting, though. I really need to get more into mobile device management in general. I'm just going to do a test rollout here as soon as I get my new Mac Mini. And I've been tempted. You don't know how many times I've been to the Apple Store, refurb section, looking at that $629 model. I think it is. It's like the cheapest quad core, basically. Because of course we all know you can add RAM. I can replace the hard drive with an SSD. But I can't help but remind myself every time that and I hear Jerry's voice. It's 400 and
day 392.
392 day old computer. I just can't.
Next week it'll be 400.
Right, and and you have to think they're about to bump that thing. So yeah, I'm trying to hold out. But anyway.
It's tough.
And once again, our topic has nothing to do with what we're talking about.
Said, yeah.
Hey, we'll get there, man. We'll get there.
By the time we roll around with it, it's time to wind up the show.
Well, my burning question on the order of the topic we decided to discuss is really the last point in the sort of notes there, tracking down freezes and kernel panics. When you get a server that's just misbehaving and you have you just have console logs in front of you, and it's like reading the tea leaves sometimes. It's trying to understand which messages are just messages, which ones are real errors, which ones are relevant to what you're working on. Do you guys have any insight into that?
No. No, I mean, yeah, I don't know what Jerry's thoughts are on the matter, but yeah, it's difficult to. Although I don't have any like insight. Sometimes it's a crapshoot. Sometimes I know what I'm looking for. It's tough to read some of those logs at times, especially if you don't know what's causing the freeze at all. Now, are you talking like total system freezes or just like hang-ups where it kind of responds after a while? Or
Well, the case I'm thinking of most recently is a Mac Mini server that at some point in the day sort of goes unresponsive, and so we end up getting a call from a client where they've had to forcibly reboot a machine, and they, so by the time I can sort of look at it, they've powered it down and they've booted it back up. Maybe they've restarted again, and finally it's kind of like working again. So I'm trying to do sort of like. What do you call that? A post-mortem on whatever happened. And so, I'll find things in the log like, okay, I can see when it rebooted and I can see what was happening right before then. And, there's sometimes a series of errors there that, kind of lead you in a certain direction, but it's still unclear. It's like, okay, I can see that this daemon was crashing, or I can see that, I don't know, they couldn't authenticate, but why not? It's like I'm still not sure exactly which piece of the puzzle was kind of out of whack at that point. And then I sort of like rolled back further and I found, okay, well, it started to generate some strange messages like the night before, or like 11 o'clock at night. And the only thing that the server is supposed to be doing then is running a clone. And, and then I noticed, well, there's also like, it got to a point where the page outs were really high. Like memory usage when I connected was fine, but the page outs were really high. So I knew at some point in the recent past it had, it was RAM constrained. So why did that happen? And when? So it's like trying to piece. If you can see it, if you can catch it at the right time, sometimes you can get a feeling for what's going on. But to try to like roll back the clock and sort of like see what was happening 12 hours ago or something like that, it can be really challenging.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. If you're not hitting it like when the problem's occurring, just trying to find it, and like you said, the client has already restarted or more than likely pulled the plug and said, I restarted it, and you're dealing with stuff like that, it's really difficult to pinpoint the issue.
Right. I mean, with previous iterations of the Macs, and this even going back all the way to the G5s, a lot of times some of those kernel panics were and this sounds like, a catch-all solution, RAM related or thermal in nature. So probably, you could do something, without really having to invest a lot of your time, or you could just run something like iStat menus on it or something like that, the server version, and kind of like track it. Like even when you could track it remotely and just kind of see where it's going temperature-wise. I mean, if this is something you've ultimately got to sleuth out and not put a lot of your, blood, sweat, and tears into this thing, and just rather than just, throwing up your hands with the client and saying, we'll just have to get in,
hoping it goes away or something like that.
Yeah. I mean, at the very least, you could do that, and you could just, at least it shows that you're extending yourself a little bit, and it really wouldn't be that much sweat to do that. So that's what I would do. I mean, I would look at,
Yeah, that's a good thought. So yeah, the idea being sort of like to be able to, sit back and wait for the information to come to you rather than like, trying to like, driving yourself crazy, trying to, beat your head against a wall looking for problems. iStat menus is a good idea. I wonder, and I don't know what they have like as far as tracking over time, like being able to, can you get the history like that? Like see a graph of like, processor usage or memory usage or IO or something like that.
Yeah, I here I am. I'm preaching something that I pulled it off my server recently, but not because it was misbehaving or using too much of the way of the server resources. But they do have that server-based product, and you just punch a couple holes in your firewall, and you can just read the data from your iOS device. So, at least it would show the client that you're actually trying something fairly scientific, and it sounds impressive anyway.
Yeah, right. That's what's important, really. And the other thing that occurs to me is what's the thing called when you do is it like a system log server or something like that, where you can like have a machine write out a log to like an outside device, like if a router is crashing or something like that, you can have it write its log to like an outside device that you don't lose that when it crashes.
Right.
But at least with the Mac, we can go back and see like what it was logging when the problem happened. It's just a matter of trying to take it, ignore all the stuff that's unimportant and actually look at the important stuff.
But it's really interesting, and I'm overgeneralizing here, but I might say that, like in general, it seems like that sort of stuff, at least on the, I mean, you'll still see it on Mac Pros, but I have been seeing less and less kernel panics unless there's something really seriously wrong with the logic board. But you know how those used to just happen all the time, like
Oh yeah.
like,
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and it always seemed like, I think Apple's sort of like line on that was it would be like hardware related, usually. So it'd be,
right.
and that goes for external stuff too. And that's the thing that concerns me is like on this Mac Mini, it's got two massive Thunderbolt connected storage devices, and they're working great, but I sometimes wonder, like, is there just too much bandwidth? Is it like when it's cloning from one to the other, is it just sort of like bogging down the whole machine? Because that's Thunderbolt is even closer to the metal, as they say. It's like an extension of the PCI bus. So it's like, you could really be kind of like saturating the PCI bus in the machine, and maybe that's kind of like just, I don't know what the result is, but maybe.
So you're going Thunderbolt to Thunderbolt.
Right. So Thunderbolt, yeah, exactly.
Are they're daisy chained?
Yeah, they are, exactly. So there's one Thunderbolt port on the Mini, and then the main storage connects to that, and then the backup is connected through the main.
Yeah. So I'm not in any way an engineer, but I play one on TV. But when you think that because they are daisy chain, that's probably using less of the resources rather than, I don't know, when it does its copy.
Right. I think I know what you're getting at. And I sort of had that, I was curious about that back in the FireWire days too, which we're still, of course, in FireWire days, but
right.
Back when that was more common, you have that a lot, like one main storage, daisy chain to another FireWire 800 connected storage. And it's sort of like, well, does the data have to come back inside the machine and then flow back out over the FireWire bus to the second machine? Or can the host machine say, hey, take that chunk of data there and just send it to that other guy on the end of the FireWire bus?
That's exactly, what I was referring.
Right. And I think the answer, and I think it was from somebody like we mentioned earlier, Paul Suh, or somebody like that. I can't remember who it was exactly, but one of the like list elders who seems to be very knowledgeable about, a lot of the inner workings of things, kind of said, it depends. It wasn't really clear exactly what happens in that situation. And I don't know if it matters. I mean, I'm not sure if it's, either way, it seems like it is kind of, I don't know, intensive, like bus intensive or something like that on the machine.
I mean, the whole, not to steer from your specific issue, but the whole idea of kernel panics, and going back to what Jerry had said, and actually Mike on the list, is like it's a lot of times was a memory. You blame it on memory, or the logic board, and it's sometimes you're pointing at that immediately. Like the first thing I'll do in a kernel panic is look for third-party RAM, and say, okay, who put this in here? Or if it wasn't me. And Mike and you also love memtest. I know I asked you about that one time a few months back. I had a recent kernel panic that actually turned out to just be simply a Wacom driver issue. And I never would have thought that. I mean, because I tried everything in my power to figure it out, and I ended up updating the drivers for the Wacom, and no kernel panic for like a month and a half. It was crazy.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So you can go in there, Joe. You could pull out a couple of RAM chips and just have it run a little bit light on RAM if you've got that available. And then the other thing is, as Sam pointed out, is you always want to look in the startup items and the launch daemons and just see what the hell's in there, and just like pull out this random stuff that may not be ultimately not important to the running of the server, and see what you can harvest from that,
Right. Yeah, no, and that's a good advice in any situation. And the frustrating thing in this case is I basically built this server more or less from scratch. The client was migrating from an Xserve with an Xserve RAID, a couple years ago. And we went to a Mac Mini server with the Thunderbolt storage, and I basically did a clean install at that point and just sort of manually reconfigured the server. I didn't even migrate anything or, bring over any third-party drivers or anything like that. So it seems like a relatively clean system. And the thing is, it's also really inconsistent. Like, it just seems to happen almost like every few weeks, maybe every month and a half. It's kind of, It's just a general. I don't quite trust it as much as I trusted their Xserve, way back when. And I mean, maybe that's just the nature of the Mac Mini. But then again, I have Mac Mini servers here that just seem to kind of sit there and do their thing. So, not to mention all over the place with clients as well. So it seems like it shouldn't be doing this. So maybe I'll look to RAM. Maybe I will run, to bring the machine down overnight one night that's convenient and just run memtest. I found with memtest you have to run like multiple loops because I've had cases where it doesn't fail on the first loop or several loops, and I've had cases where it's failed on like the fifth or sixth. So I run 7 loops now. That's kind of my magic memtest incantation. So, but I love when you get a failure because it's like pretty definitive. It's just like, okay, RAM problem, done.
Right.
Yeah,
I was just thinking too, Joe, it could be, Mac Keeper that you're running on that server.
Are we not recommending that anymore?
How dare you? How dare you bring that up?
Oh, but it has that great icon in the menu bar.
That's ridiculous.
I had a client today just send me some email that said, should I buy these utilities? And it was some sort of like Mac utility pack with 7 utilities, and all 7 of them I had never heard of before. And it's like, no, absolutely not. Do not buy this. Do not run these.
I always find that like a warning sign when I see a client machine and like in the top right in the system. So what do you call those? The little status items in the top right of the menu bar, and they just have like there's so many. It's like more than 50% of the screen, and they're just like things I've never seen. That's always like, what is that doing? What that can't be good.
Yeah.
Right. Egyptian hieroglyph symbol, just like these skull and crossbones. Actually, I'm probably that guy because I've got so many that I actually I purchased Bartender last week, which is about this?
I've heard. Oh yeah, that's a great app. Yeah, I have heard about that.
It's a $15 utility, and it basically runs in your Finder menu bar, and you basically have to. It just allows you to take some of those icons and stuff them underneath one other, the bartender icon.
I think that would be a great show ideas for everybody to talk about what we have in our menu bar.
Yeah,
what's running? What do we have running?
And why? And
why? Right. Be a good time.
And if you can't come up with a good reason, you take a drink.
Exactly. Let's do it. We'll have Bartender sponsor that episode. See, it even kind of fits there. It's the bartender game,
right? Exactly.
The bartender drinking
brilliant.
game.
And we'll have a tie into a local liquor company, and we'll do a
liking this
show
already.
The bartender drinking game. That's it. We're doing it. I had. I have to say, my old my mentor, the guy who kind of trained me initially in this line of work, who passed away a few years ago. He used to say, the guy, this is a guy who never met an extension he didn't like. It's like, and I think I've probably quipped that before, but I love that line, and I think of it every time I see a guy like this, where they have these weird issues. It's like, well, Safari is like flashing. There's all these weird like issues with Safari, like it's flashing all these weird scrambled, characters, and and it's like glitchy and it just looks weird, or they load a certain website and it's like there's blocks of things that don't load. It's just like really weird. Well, you've got like 15 different Safari extensions. I have no idea what's causing this. It's like what do you know any idea why that's happening? Well, I don't know, because it doesn't happen to anybody else. But you've got like these 15 things that who knows if they're 2 that are those are so frustrating trying to troubleshoot those things.
Yeah. One recent good tidbit, and maybe you guys already know about this, but I didn't, was I was having an issue with a couple machines when I upgraded them to Mountain Lion, where they would just slow down to a crawl. I had this one machine. I put in 12 gigs of RAM. It was a kick butt machine, and I upgraded them to Mavericks, and he was like, my machine sucks now. And I'm like, what the hell? And so, I go and do my suite of permissions and maintenance and stuff. And I found out, I looked up, to see what I could find. Of course, I used the Google machine. And it mentioned the DYLD cache. Have you guys heard of this?
Oh, yeah. It's a dynamic linker cache or whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. And a few people had mentioned that after Mountain Lion upgrades, I had to clear their DYLD cache. And it was like magic.
Oh,
and
wow.
I did it, and I swear to God, it was like magic. The machine was like instantly font caches, which are typically a problem too. But those together, it was amazing. So that was a good little tidbit that I learned. I thought maybe other people knew about it, but I didn't.
That's a good tip. Yeah.
And there's a terminal command, I would imagine, to do that.
Actually, no, man. I just used Onyx, which is since we're on the subject of favorite tools, I like Onyx. And Onyx has under the maintenance section, you can just rebuild the DYLD cache.
Yeah, Cocktail has that too. Speaking of drinking games, I'm a fan of Cocktail, and I actually rarely ever use it. There's one client that I have a sort of preventive maintenance agreement with that I visit pretty often, and I run that every time, just sort of because I've always done that, and I don't want to change now,
Right.
But I just run they have a pilot mode, where you can just say like, I want you to do this, that, and the other thing, and just go, and then restart at the end. So it kind of just runs those, and it cleans. I think it cleans the how do you pronounce it? I don't know if it's like dynamic linker cache, something like that.
Dynamic link editor. You had it right the first time.
Okay, and all those kinds of things.
I think MacKeeper does that.
You shut it.
Did you guys see Mike's photo? Mike posted this great photo in the chat. It says it's a MacKeeper status thing. It says scan results. Attention, 132 issues are affecting your system performance and wasting 458 terabytes of disk space.
That's so ridiculous.
I know.
Oh, I got to keep that. I got to say thank you, Mike.
That's great. I'm gonna link that in the show notes. That's fantastic. It really gives you like a level of confidence with that app. It's like, well, it's really it found 8,000 terabytes on my system. That's big.
So Onyx is free, right? Cocktail is not.
Well, I think you can run it for free unless you use the pilot mode and stuff. What is that, Joe? Do you pay for it?
I paid for a consultant license back in the day. I think it was around $200 for like installation on unlimited machines, that kind of thing. And I found that I do have to register it now. Like when I do an OS update and I like install the new version of Cocktail, for example, it'll prompt me to register it. And I feel like that wasn't always the case. Like I think you used to be able to run it for free. But you might be right about the pilot mode. I'm not really sure.
Well, I haven't. It just goes to show you I haven't used it in a while. I normally use Onyx these days, but I used to use it for free, a Cocktail that is, and I may not be up to date on what the latest version does or needs. Just a quick thing: Michael Reinhardt actually posted the command line to clear the DYLD cache. So thank you, Michael.
What a good man.
You the man.
I don't see that. There it is. Wonderful.
Yeah, anything you can do to copy and paste in the terminal makes life easier, right?
Yeah.
Very nice. Thank you. So, not to engage the wrath of my fellow consultants, but have you guys looked at Clean My Mac? Have you looked at this? It's that MacPaw people.
MacPaw.
I have not.
So, I forget how I forgot exactly how I got pointed to this at one point or another. It's pretty good. It's pretty fancy. It makes nice little pretty sounds and it does little animations and things like that. But it doesn't give you that bad taste in your mouth like you used to get with Norton Disk Doctor, or even shall I even be so bold as to say. What's the one that used to be included with AppleCare? Pro Tools.
Pro Tools, yeah.
Which I never really cared for too much, but this actually is pretty effective. And you can get pretty granular with it. You could turn things on and off. And,
are you talking about Tech Tool Pro?
Yeah,
Tech Tool Pro used to be included.
Yes, thank you.
There was like a light or Tech Tool Lite or something like that. Yeah. I still use Tech Tool Pro from time to time.
I'm sorry.
I do too, actually. I do too.
Well, you know what I do? I use the Surface Scan typically, and I think they have a memory test. I don't know how effective it is compared to MemTest, but yeah, I do still find some uses for that. I think they just updated again, and they have some major new feature, and I think it's a better memory test. So I'm actually I bought it. It's on my list to sort of check it out. But anyway, yeah, you were saying.
No, that was it. It's just worth a look at. I've used it on some of my personal machines, but it's not something I would use on a client site to deploy. I might recommend somebody, like if you feel like you really need to, push some buttons and watch some things go in your computer, this I can, pretty confidently recommend to them. But I don't know, it's worth a look at.
So that's something you would recommend to them if they kind of really want like a thing to run. Like if they say, what can I do to clean up my Mac a little bit? Like you might let them do that kind of self-guided.
Yeah, I mean, I would. I mean, obviously the caveat would be, you could really mess up your machine here, so you want to tread lightly. But I think they could do that with Cocktail or Onyx too. They could really kind of do some damage. So it's like what sometimes. You do have those clients who are a little bit like to feel like they're being proactive. There's an overused term, and they want to just do something and feel like they're sort of a little bit more tech savvy than the guy in the next cubicle.
Right. You're right. You're absolutely right. You sometimes need a recommendation like that because it's the kind of client who's, if you don't give them a recommendation, they're going to download something. So. Better something that you've had some experience with and you can sort of vouch for. Otherwise, they're going to end up with MacKeeper. So,
absolutely,
they're never going to sponsor our show again.
Well, you've got to take your endorsement off of their website first.
Exactly right. That glowing endorsement that I let them use. So do you guys have a recipe that you would use for, just as a matter of course? Like I know we have here, machine comes in and needs like a general tune-up, clean bill of health kind of thing, or maybe it goes through a procedure like a hard drive upgrade or memory upgrade, OS upgrade, and we generally do some stuff. I mean, one thing we do is we verify the file system just using disk utility. And obviously you want to use the appropriate version of disk utility to the machine that's running. If you're booting to an external drive, you want to use the same version of the OS and all that. But we verify disk just to be sure that it's verified. If it doesn't verify, maybe we run the repair. Maybe we then run Disk Warrior. We generally do run Disk Warrior on most every system that comes through. It's a great, you can't beat that for fixing the file system issues that disk utility can't fix. Which
Absolutely.
is one of those things that's also kind of mind-boggling that Apple's own built-in tools can't repair the problems that they create, but Disk Warrior comes to the rescue as a third-party software. But beyond that, are there any that you guys would run? I mean, is that it for you, Sam, Onyx, and Jerry? What's your sort of choice?
Under normal circumstances, if I've got a machine that's presenting problems to me, and it's running 10.7 or 10.8, obviously I'll boot off the recovery partition and do the typical things you would do in disk utility, and then I would go into the terminal and I'd invoke the reset password command, and then I would reset the ACLs in the user account. You know how you can do that?
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
And and then in terms of rolling up my sleeves beyond that, I mean, I'm almost feeling like, I mean, obviously Disk Warrior is a go-to product if disk utility can't repair the disk. I mean, and I've got that, we just put the machine in target disk mode and we apply Disk Warrior. But other than that, I've found that it's better to sort of tread a little lightly than sort of. I mean, I wouldn't worry about running Onyx or Cocktail, but I would think I wouldn't normally think of those as possibly being sort of the solution to fixing a problem with a machine. Well, I mean, they're good maintenance utilities, but are they real problem fixers? And I'm asking. I'm not. This isn't a trick question.
I didn't think so, but I think on Sam's point about cleaning that dynamic linker cache.
Well, that's new to me.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think there are a few things also, like, I'd find font corruption tends to be an issue at sometimes. So if you're not comfortable with where to go to navigate there and clear that out, or the terminal, Onyx can clear your font cache. It can run the daily, weekly, and monthly scripts. It can do a few things for you that'll just kind of, yes, maintenance, but also can help troubleshoot. But the one thing I would say, though, also on top of it is, to sometimes be cautious, because like if you do things like clearing the font cache, for instance, you'll notice Word will take a good minute and a half to open as it rebuilds.
Right.
So what I do in my recipe there, as Joe calls it, is after I run those, I'll open the apps myself to make sure that they're on next launch going to be fast for the end user.
Yeah, that's a really good tip. Otherwise, you're sort of going backwards from the client perspective. They're like, okay, you did all this work and now everything takes 20 minutes to load, you know?
Right. And they're like, what the hell?
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah,
I mean, that's a great point. And the other thing too is that, I find if I'm on a, let's say on the clock to sort of try to sleuth out what's going on with this machine or try to identify problems, or I'm at the customer site, I just feel like, running the utilities isn't probably the best use of my time or their time. In terms of font problems, I mean, I totally have seen that before, Sam, and I completely concur. And if you can't run those daily, monthly, and weekly scripts from terminal, I mean, that's a good thing to do just to bang them out. The other thing too is I'll just go into FontBook and I'll look for conflicts that way, and I'll try to kind of stay. I mean, again, it's not because. It's not because I'm looking to. I'm just trying to work as efficiently as possible, and at the same time, I feel like just like kicking back and running some utilities seems to be less self-directed. Does that rather than?
Well, I do. I hear where you're coming from. I think, but like I guess from my experience, that they've actually helped me and resolve my issues. Now that becomes my recipe that I know works. And the client, if they're sitting over your shoulder, they might say like, oh, all you're doing is downloading a tool and clicking a button. Well, it's like, yeah, but I know where to go to do this. And, I think it was Mike Kingsley that brought up, like, they might click all the buttons, like clearing the cache, but that's not necessarily a good thing to always do. Having cache for applications helps them run faster, more efficiently. So you know what to do within those applications, whereas they could just download it and start clicking away. Mm-hmm. So I do think it's in a way efficient if you come up with a recipe. But I hear where you're coming from. I understand your point.
Yeah, that is a really good point. That's a good sort of rebuttal, Sam, and reminds me of a point that somebody mentioned on the list once, and I don't know who to attribute this to, but the idea was, sometimes a client, like you're saying, Jerry, maybe they do outright protest, or maybe you feel like they may protest that they're paying you to click a button, and the story goes that they call in the high senior engineer to come in and fix machines that's broken, and he opens up the panel and presses a button and closes it up, and he walks out, and that'll be 1 hour of service, please. Say it's $100 or $200 an hour, and I'm paying you to press a button. I'm paying you $200 to press a button. No, you're paying me to know which button to press.
Yeah.
So I mean, I would remind you, Jerry, you should have confidence in this. In your level of expertise and being the trusted advisor. Sometimes our job comes down to something really simple. And I had that experience today. I was called in as like our current technology consultant is failing us. They're not available, right now. And the hosting company has been through everything trying to get this to work. It was trying to get Microsoft Link to work on a Mavericks machine. And they brought me in, and they, it was like this, really kind of overwrought meeting. Like, we need to bring this guy in to try to fix this, and we're going to get everybody on the same page. There were 3 people connected remotely to work on this, and they gave me control of the machine. And I went into Microsoft Auto Update, and I updated Link, and it opened. And I was like, okay, man. I'm done. I was like, and they're like, you're a genius. You figured this out. And it was just like, I mean, guys, sometimes, sometimes it does take a second set of eyes just to think about the simple stuff, because they've been through forums filled with try this command and try deleting this file and try making this change in this, in this preference. And it's like, well, we've tried all the hard stuff. Now let's try the easy stuff, Right. So. Yeah,
the simple stuff is oftentimes overlooked.
Yeah. So, I mean,
that's, and we probably have all seen this where clients are notorious for not updating the Microsoft Office product, and just about every machine you go on, they all need updates.
Yeah. A lot of them are set to manual for some reason.
Right.
I guess they're given a choice, and the clients are just like, "Don't bother me," Yeah.
I guess the premise was, what kind of a situation is it? Is it kind of a crunch situation where you're on the clock, or somebody's just dropped off their computer and said, it seems a little slow. Do whatever you can. And I think the criteria is a little different depending on what set of circumstances you're faced with.
That's a good point. I mean, if it's on the bench and you're just sort of like clicking a button and walking away and doing something else, and you're not really billing to watch the progress bar, then it's a lot easier to just like kind of like throw Cocktail or Onyx at it and see what sticks, and then come back and continue. But yeah, if you're sitting there and you're both waiting for the progress bar, you and the client, it does seem like you kind of like have to have some confidence that it's going to work, otherwise you're just kind of spinning the gears a little bit. So I see your point there too.
Yeah, and some of that has to dealing with asking some key questions like, here, my Mac's slow, fix it. Okay, well, what are you doing to, like what applications are you opening? How much do you have open? Sometimes you got to dig deep in those questions, and they don't always know how to answer them. But, I don't like the general, my Mac's slow, fix it kind of thing, because it could be something in particular, like when you open this app, or does this happen, and some of it is detective work.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, you have to interrogate the client about, like, what's slow, Well, it's whenever I, get my mail. Well, how are you getting your mail? Well, I'm going to, Safari, and I go to Yahoo, and okay, so it's like the web is slow. The rest of the machine is fine.
Right.
So, and it's not mail. It's just like, what I mean? There's a lot of red herrings out there to watch out for. Yeah, that's one that I'm sure everybody deals with, trying to address just slowness in general and trying to figure out where to sort of focus your efforts, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
And the other thing to just sort of the other thing to keep in mind too is that a lot of times we walk into these situations and it's break fix, and you're looking at a machine that basically has not had anything done to it for a long period of time, and maybe having a number of gremlins inside it, including maybe a hard drive that's really sort of on the cusp of failing and maybe not doing reads and writes very well. And you could run your utilities all day long and it's not going to fix that. So it's really there's layers of analysis I think that we have to do anytime we look at a computer that we haven't seen before. And sometimes it's helpful to cut to the chase.
Yeah.
And I think all these utilities, even including the one I mentioned, they're all worthwhile. I mean, other than, let's say, repairing the disk, either with Disk Warrior or Disk Utility. But beyond that, I've never noticed like night and day improvements by running Cocktail or running Onyx. I mean, they'll help, and they'll help to sort of move things along and maybe get a little bit more responsiveness from the computer, but usually it's something else, something really systemic that is, some bigger thing that's going on than simply, it hasn't run its scripts because it's shut down every night.
Right. Don't knock my utility, man.
No, I love your utility.
So on the topic of hard drives, are there any utilities you guys use to kind of I don't know if you'd call it certifying or verifying a disk, and it's like what kind of I/O should we expect from this disk, and what are we actually getting? And like you said, Jerry, maybe the disk is just slow and it's not going to get any better regardless of what fixes you do in software.
Right.
I mean, have you guys used Drive Genius at all?
I think that would be the go-to tool for any kind of analysis. Absolutely.
I have to check that out. I haven't really played with it. I've run surface scans back in the day, but I guess I think they also test disks, right? Like you can, get a read on how fast it is, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that'd be good.
It's interesting because all these utilities they have this sort of fine line that they walk where they're selling to professionals, but at the same time they're selling to the residential market or the home user market. So including Drive Genius, which is very good. They all have these like crazy animations that
Right.
that you just don't need, and it makes you kind of look a little foolish. I mean, I don't know if sometimes when you run these at a client, and the numbers and the digits and the eyes and the ones and the zeros, and they're flying by in Drive Genius. It's like, really, do we really need this? Is there any way to turn this off?
Right. And also save $2 on the purchase price or something.
Right.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Nice. Can you give me the grown-up version of this?
Yeah, right. You want like a text output, just like raw logs, yeah. That's funny.
It's not as sexy that way.
Now, what about repairing permissions? Is that I feel like I'm very close to just sort of considering that like a joke that we make now. Like, have you tried repairing permissions? Do you guys think of it that way or no?
I don't know. I guess I don't know. I don't know if it's old fashioned for me to think of it this way, but there are still. I mean, the funny thing is there are certain permissions that always appear in the list. That's the ridiculous part.
Right.
It's like you look there and it's still airport utilities, still all the time showing up in there. But I don't know. It's not like it's the only thing I run, so I know that it resolved my issue. But permissions do come into play at times. I mean, upgrades or third-party installs that change permissions on files, I think it still is somewhat of an issue. I don't think it'll just, magically correct everything, but
it does fix problems on the server, especially if you're, in Open Directory and you've got some sort of weird thing going on and you, let's say, rebind the server to Open Directory. It's always good to, run repair permissions and reboot, So there's definitely some stuff that it's. I mean, I hear what you're saying. Sometimes it seems like it's the equivalent of swinging a dead cat.
I didn't say that.
and with at a client site with a really slow hard drive, that could take upwards of 15 minutes or more, and they're like looking at you like, well, did you find it yet? Did you find out what's wrong?
Right.
It's like, no, this little progress bar, still says 2 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, some of them just take forever. It's funny. And Mike Kingsley and Alan are mentioning that repairing permissions can fix printing issues.
Yeah, and Mike brought up one that I like too. Well, actually, it's the equivalent of chucking a grenade in the printing system, but doing the reset printing system.
Yep. Yeah, that's a great one. Yeah. But
last
you're right.
ditch effort.
But you're right. Yeah, that just deletes all print queues. So you've got to write them down and figure out what.
Right.
And the problem is if they've got like a printer in the office and you're working at their home, or they've got a printer at school or something like that, it's and maybe it's a network printer, and that can be a pain. So it's actually great to have another way around that, repairing permissions, potentially fixing that. Honestly, I can't remember the last time I've repaired permissions on a client machine. I've done, I've run it as part of Cocktail. I mean, that's a built-in, that's one thing that I do have turned on in Cocktail on the basically the one client where I run Cocktail sort of in a preventive way. And I really rarely run it aside from that, on client machines. So, I'll have to, really rethink that a little bit, but I haven't seen any negative effect from really not repairing permissions, but I wonder if it would solve some issues that I've struggled with, other ways.
It's another 15 minutes of billable time, Joe.
There you go.
Nice.
Right. So we covered all of our cleanup tools, repairing permissions, tracking down freezes and kernel panics topics.
Until next time.
Yeah. Right.
But I think that's actually a good subject to kind of revisit every once in a while, and just in case anything comes up with something new, or someone in the list comes up with something new, because it's always good to kind of learn about what other people are using for their repair and maintenance.
Definitely, yeah. It's great to learn those, because that can easily go in the tool belt and become like a matter of course, pretty quickly. If somebody says, hey, this thing works great, and you try it a few times and it like solves those issues, and it just becomes one of those like go-to apps pretty quickly. So that's handy.
Yeah. If I could, I'm not sure if we're still on this topic, but at some point I have a funny little anecdote to round this out, because I know we're running long. But at some point,
go ahead.
It was funny. One of my guys was on the shuttle bus when we were in Dallas from the airport, and a couple of Apple engineers were on the shuttle bus, and they were talking to each other and whipped out their laptops and doing some stuff. And one guy opens up his laptop and he knocks on his pocket, and the laptop authenticates and he logs in.
Oh yeah, I've seen that. Yeah.
Yeah. So he sits to me at breakfast. He's like, I think I just saw something I shouldn't have. This might have been something coming out from Apple soon. And he's like wigging out that like maybe he saw something. And so he researched it and everything. And it turns out, and I actually use it now. It's just called Knock. It's an iPhone app.
Yeah.
That uses Bluetooth to talk to your computer and just you knock on your pocket. And so awesome. But he was so like, oh my God, I think I just.
That's awesome. That's really cool. That's really funny. Yeah, when it's like you're in the zone of Cupertino, and you just sort of like wonder what's what you're privy to that you don't even know.
Yeah,
is he feeling like his life was in danger because he saw something?
He was afraid to even tell me about it.
Wow. That's really cute. Yeah, no, I only heard about this within the last week, I think, from one of the other podcasts.
It's actually kind of cool. It's cool for showing it off too.
Yeah. So one little thing I shared with you guys before we went on the air is I went into the Apple store and I was leaving and I had to do a quick download. So I jumped on their Wi-Fi system and I couldn't connect to the internet. It was very odd. So I thought I would ask the chat if they knew about this. So I looked in on one of the local machines that they had there in the store, and one of the tables, and all the machines were configured with OpenDNS, the 208.67.222 and 208.67.220.220. And as soon
hold on,
looked
Jerry, I'm writing this down. Hold on, because no, sorry. Sorry.
I said that for Nana, who's listening.
Right.
So and I had Google numbers in my phone or in my laptop. So I removed those and I put in the OpenDNS numbers and I connected to the internet. So I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah, Google's DNS wouldn't work.
Yeah,
right.
My theory.
Is that weird?
No,
so weird.
My theory is that they're blocking Google's DNS in particular because they don't want Google to monitor everything that goes on at the Apple Store, all the pages visited. I wonder if another DNS server would work. If you just put in like Cablevisions or something like that.
Mike's saying they have a firewall to block everything but OpenDNS. That Mike.
You ruined our fantasy of Google spying on Apple.
Well, it's really Apple's. That's pretty interesting for security. I mean, they basically trusted OpenDNS to not sort of monitor what's happening in Apple stores, and they don't trust any other company's DNS to not keep a log of the sites that are being visited. I mean, you can imagine if Apple visits some internal page or something like that, somebody might be able to discern something from a URL, that kind of thing.
Yeah. All right, Mike Kingsley, since you're so smart, in my VPN, in my Finder menu bar across the top, if I tap on my VPN, I have a bazillion different clients' VPN credentials. Is there an app that I could buy, and I'd pay big money for it, where I can organize these so I don't have this long laundry list of VPN logins?
Or are you just going to wait to see what happens on the list?
Yeah, I'm just going to wait.
So something like Bartender for your menu bar, but for VPN?
Well, just some way so that I can just find these clients faster. Because like a lot of times I'll be remote and somebody will say, we're having problems with the server. Can you check it out or whatever? And then I'll have to look in the list. And I really, they are alphabetized. I will give you that. So
not for me.
Not bad. Well, they weren't always alphabetized. I'm not sure why they are now.
Maybe Mavericks, maybe.
Yeah, do you notice something else that happens too? Like my timer used to appear up in the menu bar, and
now it's in the
which ticks me off actually, because I like to know when I'm connected to a VPN.
I thought
if I forget,
can't you turn that on? Can't you turn that back on? I thought I read that you could turn that back on.
Don't make me look stupid, Joe.
Yeah, no, I read it in one of the reviews. I'm pretty sure that there's a checkbox. I haven't upgraded my main machine to Mavericks yet, but.
So Alan just posted a link to Squash Software, who has this thing called VPN Reorder. And Alan, I had tried that at one time, not with Mavericks, and it didn't work, but it may have gotten better. So,
wow, this is exactly what I wanted. I posted this to the list, Jerry. The same question I had. I don't know, a couple of years ago, like this VPN menu is so unruly, and then you've got like not only the connect list, but then you've got all the like configurations below it with default checked for every single one of them. So it's sort of like just pointless to even have that. And I can't believe this exists, because it seems like something that really only people like us would need. I mean, how many people have more than like 2 VPN connections there?
Exactly. Yeah. Okay. Here's another rat hole, or not a rat hole, but another question that drives me crazy.
Go on all night with Jerry's rat hole questions.
Have you ever been at a customer site, a brand new site where you've never been before, and you want to join their Wi-Fi network, and you open up your laptop, and your laptop, before it can sort of give you the ability to go to find the available network, it's going through its list behind the scenes of possible networks it could join before it. And I know I could open up, system preferences and go into the network preference pane and then look for it there. But there doesn't seem to be any sort of automatic way that it sort of has to go through that sort of sort of looking for its possible connection that it might have made to this network or an available network in the past on site. I don't know if I'm explaining this properly.
Yeah, I read something a while back about that. There's something that Apple does that's not entirely within the Wi-Fi spec, is kind of the impression I got, where they attempt to reconnect to previously used networks in order to reconnect more quickly. Because otherwise, like if you just sort of like, if you go by the letter to the Wi-Fi spec, or I guess the way other manufacturers do it, it will just kind of like forget everything it ever knew about Wi-Fi and just kind of give you a list of all the available networks, and so it searches for all networks. Then it says, does anything match a previous network, and then it connects to it, which takes longer. And if you are in range of like the network you just recently connected to, like you leave your office and come back without connecting to anybody else's network in the meantime, it will like pretty quickly reconnect. Like the Wi-Fi menu is active like immediately. So it may be something related to that, it sounds like. But can't you just go to the Wi-Fi menu and just sort of like, doesn't it populate pretty quickly? I know.
No, you have to wait. You have to wait while it does this sort of it's doing this behind the scenes looking for.
Yeah, I've seen that too. Yeah.
It drives me crazy. I mean,
right, because you're standing there like, I'll just connect to your Wi-Fi network, and then you're like, what's the password? Wait, hold on, don't tell me yet. Wait, yeah. Any other closing words from either you two cool guys?
No, thank you everybody for joining us, and we're back alive, so we'll be back again next week.
No, I'm good. Oh, one little tip. What's my DNS.com? Very cool place to check your MX records and your A records and your CNAME records. You get a world map, and it tells you when the records are populated. So that's cool.
Stop stealing my word, man.
Sam's been saying cool since before it was cool.
That's right.
Thanks, guys. Have a good night.